What's up, guys? Welcome back to the ASAP Automotive channel, and today we're back at it with part 2 on our fuel system in our LSTJ here in Project 6.0. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so we went ahead and we got our regulator hat back in there. Just pops in. If you need to, you can put a little bit of fuel around the O-ring or something, let it slide on in. Got this lined up this way. So in the Novak instructions, none of that is in there. So they've got it where you just drill a hole, bolt it in like this, and it just goes boom, boom. Well, that would be cool if you didn't have this in the way, and you know it's going to hit no matter what. We've been sitting here trying to figure out which way we want to route it. We're trying to think ahead. So this is a, I mean, it technically is a fuel filter, but it's really it's a regulator assembly, the fuel pressure regulator. So your actual filter, your real filter, is really here. So which is cool they added that in. It'd just be great if it was in the instructions, but that being said, we decided to go ahead and mount ours here. So I went ahead and took an 11/32 drill bit, drill this a hole in there. We're going to go ahead and put this on, and we're going to bolt it down right here. So with this, now we're able to, if we ever have any issue with this, we don't have to drop the whole freaking tank to change this thing out or the fuel filter. So our theory here is we're going to go ahead and bolt this down and tighten it down, and then the actual body is right here. They make brackets for these type of filters and stuff, and I think we're just going to go ahead and get a bracket and go ahead and mount it up in there later on. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and get this bolted down and then run our other line. Alright, guys, so a little bit of transparency here, a little behind the scenes. It's actually a few weeks later now. We got to a point the other night trying to figure out this fuel line setup that we called it a night. It was like 11 something o'clock, long day, we're tired. And anyways, with our schedules, it's been crazy trying to get back to the point of getting to this. Anyways, that being said, we're gonna go just back to the way it was in the instructions to begin with, without the extra filter. So we're going to shorten these lines, take another line off, all that. So we're going to put it back the way it is in their instructions, and we're about to show you how we're going to do all that. Plus it kind of works out because with one of the lines we're doing away with, one of the extra pieces on the other side of the fuel filter, that's going to give us our quick connects to do our line from the frame rail up to the fuel rail on the engine. So all kind of comes out in the wash. That being said, we're gonna go ahead and get on with modifying these lines, putting them back to where we want them, and we're gonna show you the tools and stuff that we're gonna use to do that. So let's get at it. All right, guys, so the key element in this whole thing is where this regulator slash fuel filter mounts up. All your line lengths, everything like that, is determined off of that. So after much deliberation, trial and error and all that, I mean, what big project would it be without some fun stuff along the way? So after having the tank back up in there and realizing anything mounted out here ain't gonna happen because you've got the pan hard bar, track bar, whatever you want to call it, right there, there's just no way you can mount something out here. So we had to go back in here. That's why we went back to the drawing board, decided we were going to do away with this filter and all this and the extra bit of line. So that being said, we went ahead and drilled this a hole here. Just got us a little bolt in the nut, lock nut or whatever. Drilled the hole, went ahead and mounted this. So what this does, mounts it away from everything. It's tucked in behind. You know, it's shielded by this. Also, now we can determine how long our lines need to be. Also, it allows us to go ahead and connect our wiring connector right back here in the factory location, the pigtail. Now, one of the next things we're going to do is go ahead and shorten these lines. This line needs to be shortened because it needs to come out somewhere about here. So we'll probably take about 1.5 inches off of here to put us to where we need to be. Yeah, probably about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. And that'll bring us back because the way the line comes out off of the frame rail, the way it is now would be all kinked up and back here. So we're going to take this opportunity while we have the tank down, go ahead and cut this clamp off, shorten the line about 1 inch, 1.5 inches, and go from there. Meantime, we're going to go ahead and work on these. One thing I did not like about the kit, and granted, yes, it'd probably work, probably be fine. This is probably me being particular, but with 50-something, 60-something PSI fuel pressure behind this, I'm not really a fan of these type of clamps. So what I did, being that we were going to be doing a bunch of rework on this and some of these others, like these clamps are awesome. These Crimp style, they're pretty cool setup that they use. These are great. These ain't coming off, like, you know, unless you cut them off like we're about to. But that being said, I went on and ordered a kit of these style clamps. They're like, I guess you call them Crimp style, whatever. I think there's a couple different names, but that is a part number that I ordered. You can, I mean, you pull up Amazon with Crimp style clamps and you're going to get a ton of different stuff. So try to find something that's reputable, you know, and good. I went with a stainless steel. I think it was like an extra $1 or something. You know, it's supposed to be made in China anyways. That way we don't have to worry about any rusting. Now, if you do buy something like this from Amazon, you know, the cool little bar at the bottom is going to give you all kind of suggested, or most people buy such and such with this, yada yada. That's where these come into play. So there's a handful of different type of pliers that you can get. This is what we got, and I think one of those is a part number. So we good? Okay. So I can't remember if it's the top one or the bottom one. Either way, you got both numbers. These are cool. They're a few extra bucks, but they weren't really bad. This allows you to not only, let me go ahead and show you an example here real quick. To not only, you see these, looks like a cute wedding ring. Will you marry me? Just go in here like this, catch it right there, and you squeeze down. That's after you've set your tabs here, which these are, I think there's one set and you're good. So these are all the way in. I guess you could, well, no, I guess that's it. Okay, so anyways, they're locked in. We're good there. Some of these I think you can adjust at different lengths, make them multiple sizes, and then crimp them. But anyways, you catch here, you squeeze down, that crimps down, and you're good to go. But that's cool if you got this kind of room. You don't always have that kind of room, so worth spending the extra $1 or $2, a couple bucks, whatever. It also crimps on the side. So if you're on here, you can slide up in here like this, catch it in here. Did I say that? Oh, there we go. Okay. And crimp it that way. So that's one of the little things that I maybe look for if you're buying these tools, you know, unless you've already got one. That's cool. So cool little tool to have. Not a lot of money, and definitely worth having in your toolbox. You know, really help, you know, later down the road. It's a great way to get away from using these little kind of clamps, especially in higher pressure fuel systems. Hell, even lower pressure. It just looks better. It's a better quality job. So anyways, I'm going to shut up. We're going to take these clamps off. We're going to go ahead and start working on, now that we've got our fuel filter orientated, we can shorten these two lines and go from there. This line, if I remember correctly, yep. So we've actually got to take this, take an end off, and because it's got, this originally went into this, and it's smaller. It's 5/16 instead of 3/8. So that being said, we're going to take this off, which is cool because we're going to end up using this later on the front fuel line. We're going to go ahead and make this shorter and put the one of these 3/8 style on there. So we'll go ahead and get on that now. When you pull these things out, they're barbed, like they've got some ribs on it. And they look like that right there. Those things are serious, man. That's what I was just trying to pull this thing apart and ended up ripping some of the inner lining out. So what we're going to do is make sure we cut off that section to make sure we don't have any risk of that causing any leaks or anything like that, being that we ruptured that inner lining. So just a quick little tip for you guys when you're doing this. So we're going to cut back about where the barb is, and we're going to go ahead and get one of our 3/8 on here. Like you guys saw me earlier, there's different ways to do this. I just went ahead and made a quick little cut, little incision across to break the clamping force, get in there, pry it apart, and slide it out. That's all you really need to do. So, because they're just a crimp style clamp. So that being said, and remember, don't be an idiot. Wear your safety glasses. So being that we're not going to use this little piece of fuel hose anyways, I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit and make a little cut across here so it makes it easier getting this out. Now, that's cool. You know, if you're doing this a long time, you can go across it without cutting anything, but last thing you want to do is make a good gouge in this. You can end up causing a potential leak for fuel to slide by. So be really careful if you do. If not, you can just work it a little bit and get it out, but I'm taking an easy way out here. Just run across a little bit. You'll feel it cutting the braiding, the hose, like the thread, I guess, the netting, whatever you want to call it, in the hose itself, and then you'll feel it get down to the fitting. The netting in the hose itself, yes, and then you'll feel it get down to the fitting. See, we did that with no cutting and all that. So last thing you want to do is gouge that. So anyways, we're good there. So now I'll go ahead and put that on this here after we find what clamp we need. All right, so we got our line on. A little bit of a snug fit, being that this is a 3/8 fitting and a 5/16 line, but we had to go with 5/16 because the nipple on the top here is 5/16. So now we got our clamp on, and we're gonna go ahead and use our nifty little tool here and just squeeze it on down. You don't have to get crazy, especially in this case. The clamp was kind of right on the edge of being, the next size up was just too big, no way you could clamp down. So this was a bit snug. So normally you would try to squeeze like almost all the way kind of connected, but being in this case, we just had to give it a little bit of a squeeze to get it down good and tight. Remember, that's a plastic fitting, so you don't want to break it. All right, so now we can go ahead and hook our line up here. We've already got the insert on here. Matter of fact, let me just roll that thing off. So this is what the inside piece of these things look. This is like the retaining clip. What it is it catches on the back side here, right in here on this lip, and the bottom lip, you guys can see right there on that tab on the top side. There you go. There's a good one for you. That catches on the lip right here. So we'll go ahead and slide this in. And of course you got your O-rings down in the fitting that seal it off in there. Normally there's two of them. So that being said, we can go ahead and it just snaps on. Just pull back, make sure it's good and snug. Now we can go ahead and run our line over here and find out our length. Go ahead and cut it, and we're good to go. All right, so now we got our line set up. What we're gonna do is, we're not sure on the length of this one, so we're gonna go ahead and get the tank back up in there and then cut it accordingly and go ahead and put our end back on. So let's get it putting this tank up in there. All right, guys, so we got the tank back up in here now. Got it bolted up. You can see here how everything looks with that regulator assembly and all that behind here. It's nice and clean. The harness for the fuel pump still in the stock location. So we went ahead and shortened this line here, this hose. You know, put one of those clamps on it, crimp clamps or whatever. Got the connection up here, so we're good. Got the vent line hooked up for the tank for the fuel vapors. We're not 100% positive yet which route we're going to go with the emission side of it, but we've got to have some way to control that that vapors from the tank. So we just haven't sat down on that part of the project, figured out what we're going to do, but we'll get to that later. So that being said, tank's up, bolted. This is all, you know, in here. This will get plugged in when we start working on the electrical side and running the harness back through everything. But for now, we're going to go ahead and start on our front fuel line. We'll start down here since we got it on the frame rail and run the hose on up. Then we'll go ahead and drop the Jeep down, go ahead and put our filler neck back together with the bezel for it and all, and then connect our fuel line on the top side up on the fuel rail. So let's get at it. All right, guys, so this one's really kind of open to interpretation on how you want to route this particular line. What we're going to do is go ahead and, this is a 5/16 quick connect. Go ahead and go on here. We don't have 5/16 fuel line right now. All they had was the 3/8. Because when you're doing this stuff, you got to make sure on this that it's actually rated for fuel injection, which is a good note, by the way. This is actually meant for that. It's meant for what, 220 something PSI. We're running 60 PSI. The max that pump can put out is 95, so we're well within it. Regular fuel line's not going to work. You're going to end up in a world of trouble with busted fuel lines, and that's not going to end well. So that being said, the lines in this system are, I think the return line coming out, it might not be from the Novak kit, but it's a return line. There's literally hardly any pressure on it, so we're fine. That being said, we don't have the 5/16 tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of walk you through what we're planning on doing. Like I said, you know, just like the other hose, it's going to go on. You got the clamp, just like the other clamps we've done. We're going to go ahead and snake it up through, like so, up the back side of the bell housing. And up back side on the firewall, and it's going to want to be a butt head because we're filming, because it just went up there perfectly fine, no problem 2 minutes ago. What a mercy, I think he's hitting on everything. Okay, so it'll go pretty much something like this. Hook it there, and then it'll be there and it'll arch around. I'm going to try to maneuver it around to where it's not laying or rubbing against anything, so we'll get that figured out. But that's looking probably like the route we're going to go. But yeah, we'll figure out what kind of manipulation we need to do to that. So basically that's it. The top side is another 5/16 on that fuel line. So you'll do the same thing. You'll have the other 5/16 barb that we got left over from the redoing the kit back there. We'll go ahead and plug it in. You'll go ahead and clamp on the end to the hose and all that. So your biggest thing with it is just make sure, pay attention where you're routing it. Make sure you're not laying against the exhaust or anything like that, something that can rub and chafe. It's the last thing you want. So your particular application might be a little bit different, so take your time with it and just do it right the first time so you don't have to worry about it. Now we're gonna go ahead and drop the Jeep down and for tonight and go ahead and get the fuel bezel or the filler neck bezel back together and then go from there. All right, guys, so that's gonna be a wrap for this video with the fuel system. So hopefully that helped you guys out. We tried to go as in detail as we could. Like you guys seen, I mean, there's fun stuff in these projects that come up. We try to be honest with you guys anytime we come across a struggle, maybe to help you guys out. So like I said, hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, if you didn't, either way, like and subscribe, man, show some love. And remember, until next time, stock is not an option.